I guess my first question is definitely, what is the point of mashups? Why would I even bother entertaining a mashup when I've got a really cool dashboard, I've got a suite of dashboards, people are using them. I don't see the point. Why spend more money? So it's over to you guys, really. You convinced me why I should spend my hard-earned money getting a mashup together.
Steve, you go first, and
yeah, Steve, you go first, please.
There you go. Hot potato over this way. Generally, mashups are something that I would probably try and veer the customer away from 9 times out of 10.
All right.
However, because there's generally an overhead with those, so everything that we do about building, we're taking away the core platform of users being able to build and deliver very quickly. However, in most of the cases where a mashup's been required, it's where there's a very heavy focus on guided analytics. So for me, it's where the user needs to be drawn and taken through the process, almost back to the old Qlik terminology. It used to be referred to as guided analytics, where you can very easily prescribe how the user maneuvers themselves through the project and the dashboards. I think that lends itself where people are fearful of users who don't know how they're going to interact with the system. So they actually want to take that away from them and allow them to say, actually, you've got 4 buttons across the top, and as long as you click on button number 1, then number 2, then number 3, and number 4, you've got everything you need. So it's a very easy way of controlling that. Now, there are aspects of that obviously standard Qlik would do, where this tends to sort of I suppose, get more power is the look and feel, the styling, so that the overall how the user interacts with the application. So we've had a couple of customers who are branding is very important to everything that they do. So it's about being able to carry that brand, maybe not on the first iteration of the project, but it's about getting a wider audience of larger corporations involved, and that brand helps them get the project delivered and gets the buy-in from a lot of users. Overall, it dictates, the client will dictate that a mashup's required more often than not.
So I can understand what you're saying about it being a lot more prescriptive, but surely if I've just got my users on an analyzer license, they can't really do a great deal anyway. And I can write my dashboards to make them look pretty prescriptive. So on the prescriptive side, what's
So let me ask you how you would answer this question then. So in one of the mashups, I'm able to do a drill down, but I'm able to, on every level of the drill down, change the chart object that is displayed. Okay, so I can start off with the VisLib P&L finance report. I can click on a line in the report, but then it turns immediately into a pie chart at the next level down, and then it reverts into a line.
That is pretty cool.
Okay, so we're not just guiding the user through sheets of an application. What we're actually doing is guiding them through the analysis. So I'm saying, okay, here's a number that you need to be interested in, and actually when you get to that number, it's a pie chart, or it's then a line graph, or it's a Sankey diagram, or whatever it might be. It's not,
like you say, it's not just in terms of the visual analytic that you see on screen, it's every single click, every motion of the customer that they travel through the journey of the dashboard. You can be prescriptive about that.
Exactly.
That's a whole different kettle of fish, isn't it? That's pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with most of the things that Steve said, but one element that I probably disagree with is the fact that when do we introduce Mashup and how often do we talk about Mashup to our clients? Yeah. And personally, for me, I tend to speak about Mashup to our clients a lot more than others are found. And the reason behind it is whenever we build an analytics tool or build some dashboard, for example, or set of dashboards, the end user for those are not your day-to-day developers who will be building them. So it's only a small scale of people that actually need the broad range of tools, the capability to interact with the dashboard and to be able to ask questions and do things. Most of the consumers are there to just have something on the screen, quickly look at it and gain what they need to gain and move on from there on. If they need further analysis, at that point, they open up their app or they either engage with the developers and get them to build that analysis or do that analysis for them. So if we keep our focus purely just on the power of Qlik Sense client and focus on that one, then that means we're sort of forgetting about those 80% of the people who will be the biggest consumer of that product who doesn't really care about doing the analysis themselves. Yes, we would like to be in a world where self-service BI become the norm in the business. Unfortunately, we are not quite there yet. We're quite a long way from that point. And those self-service part of it still lies within a small subset of users. And that's where Qlik Geex client plays a really good part and great part. But the rest part of the application itself lies within the normal consumers who just want to consume the data and consume the visualization that's been passed on to them in a guided way, perhaps in sometimes, and sometimes with other context being added onto them, and they don't really want to do anything apart from just being able to drill down in places, being able to make small, quick analysis without having to go through so much that we developers go through. And I think that's where Mashup plays a great role. Mashup can actually provide with a sort of a standard way of delivering that without introducing them to another set of tool that they need to learn, another user interface that they have to master and remember how that works. You can make it look feel like just like any other standard website that we are sort of used to nowadays, and you can build a Mashup feel that way. So that way we're already familiar with that.
Can you do it fairly cheaply for me then? Because from what you've both just said, you just added a massive amount to my budget on developers overhead, because I can't just have somebody that knows a decent amount about Qlik now that runs my analytics in-house if I'm in a small to medium company. I've now got a development overhead. You've got to make this thing fairly bespoke. What about the people that have got kind of the 2 to 50 licenses? Do you think a web mashup is still for them?
Yeah, web mashup is for everybody to consume, whether it's a very small organization. It depends on your end goal, what you are trying to do with it. It's not suitable for example, say I've got a team of 10 developers, and my core consumption of that dashboard would be those 10 developers and maybe a couple of CEOs and a couple of the managers. At this point, Mashup doesn't really add on to it if there's a lot of overhead that you need to account for and you need to hire another web developer to build that for you. That becomes an expensive process to go through. Where Mashup does add on and make sense if you have, say, for example, a team of 10 developers, but we have 100 people on the other side that will be consuming this, and they don't really need the capability of the Qlik Geex client. Yeah. And that one, Mashup becomes quite good, attractive add-on, really.
So to me, that's when I'm looking at guys like HSBC and your big blue chippers that are using the Qlik stuff rather than the manufacturing company in Hull, that's got kind of 20 users using Qlik, and wants to keep their development budget down to a minimum.
It doesn't have to be a big company. So I'll give you an example from hospitality industry. Say in hospitality industry, you're probably going to have a head office where you would have a bunch of analysts or developers that will be working with all the data coming from all the different branches.
Yep.
But all the branch managers are actually the prime consumer of their analytics.
Cool.
Whenever they come up with any ideas, they want to push it back to the branch managers. Sometimes branch manager wants their staff to see those data. It could be a small operation. It could be a small site with only just a small business with only 4 branches or 5 branches. They could have only 5, 6 managers plus say about 10 staff per site. It's not really coming up to that big number. However, they do have the requirement, and also those 5 developers, what they're building, all these other consumer needs to consume them and also need to be able to take that information in a way that they don't have to learn another system, because if they have to, they move away from it. So what you find with the say for example, if I'm working as a branch manager and I don't really have that much technical knowledge, I don't really have that much technical background, all I want to do is just to get some reports and get some analytics that help me to do my job right, and also I wanted to be able to show that to my direct reports and look, this is what you are doing, this is what your performance looks like, this is what you can do to make your perform better, and this is what you need to do to make sure that you get your bonuses. And if I wanted to relay that message back to them, obviously I need to show them something. And if it's through a standard client, then obviously it can be quite difficult for me to get used to it, and I may just stop using it entirely. So this is where the Mashup can play a
You've cut down a lot, therefore, on training overhead. This is, you're talking about something that's much more refined and much simpler to use. For me personally, therefore, my challenge would be what I've done in the past, because I've not had knowledge of Mashups, is I've used end printing, and I've pushed that out via via email, whether it be on a threshold basis, so when they've hit a certain margin drop, or just a weekly review of profit for bonus purposes. So again, why just a challenge that if I've got end printing, why wouldn't I just end print that, so that I'm not again incurring the cost of a specialist developer?
Yeah, so there's a couple of points to this. End printing obviously requires another sort of skill set, just like Mashup would require, but end printing also has a licensing cost that you need to consider. And on top of all of this, end printing has become a bit of a reactive approach to it, and also you can't interact with any charts that you're sending. It'll be a static chart. It's
a lot cheaper because they don't have to have an actual license. Endprint can push out to kind of 250 or whatever it is for a 10 grand investment. Whereas if it's a mashup, because this is something again that I don't understand. I thought that if I'm using a mashup on a website, I still have to have a Qlik license, albeit like a capacity or an analyzer license.
Yeah, that's correct. You need to have.
So can't therefore I do it cheaper when it's a purely prescriptive basis? Can't I do it cheaper using end printing? Because it's a damn sight. I find again, I'm just being my devil's advocate here. Again, when I'm developing end print reports, I use Excel to design them. They're easy. You know, I've got no knowledge of CSS. I've got no knowledge of Java, HTML or anything like that, but I know how to use Excel. It's easy. All I do is link it to the model and then draw up the report, stick it on the old task manager, and away it goes.
Yeah. So the one part that you miss out from using end printing in that sense is there's two elements. One element is you have to push that out to their email. A lot of the times people just get so much junk that they tend to disregard the email that they're getting every day. So that's one. The second part is the interactivity. You totally miss that section out. So if I was presented with two sets of chart to look at, one is interactive. I can start asking questions and I can drill down and see a variety of different other levels. Or one is just giving me 4 or 5 charts. Which one would I interact with? Yeah. Personally, I think most of the younger generation, they are so used to using mobile phones and other devices. They tend to like interactivity a lot more over static content. So you'll find better response from them. And they also get interested when they get to see how their journey goes. So for example, if you start looking at from the drop down on a league table, when you click on yourself, you can see what contributed towards that league table and how we got to that position, how the top person got to that position. If you have to find the answer from a list of different charts that's been sent to you via email, you may not be encouraged to look at it. Maybe first time you will look at it, but the second time you're just probably not going.
So my challenge.
Sorry to interrupt, but even I've seen the same case. When you send an email, all the analytics through email using the end pending, because that's what we do for a couple of our customers. But most of customers never even open the email, right? I mean, and the thing about that is, what they say is, I'm the business user, so definitely I know my data, right? So if you're giving me only a static data, that is not going to help me. What I need is, I need an opportunity, or I need some interactive thing where actually I can ask the question and I can get the answers to it. So that's where end pending reports probably doesn't help. That's where, yeah.
That's the whole point of our Qlik side, isn't it? That it's a dynamic, interactive data set that we can ask questions rather than just ask the one question. But I kind of got mixed up there, because I got mixed up in my user type, my generational user type then, because my end printing reports that I've used in the past have been for, let's say, the more mature generation that, I don't want to use a mobile phone because I've got one on my desk that's got a string on it and it's fine. So why do I want a mobile one? For that type of user that we've had to spoon feed them information, and they're that used to, I just want to receive my PDF so when I'm on a train I can get that on my BlackBerry or something like that. They're still carrying around with them. And always, whenever we do the end printing side, we always put the link so they go back to the dashboard. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're not that stupid that we don't link them back to the dashboard, but that's more getting them, that's more user adoption. But if I'm therefore using Mashups for the type of user that wants the interactivity, again, why am I using Mashups to dumb it down? I can understand Steve's point at the beginning, which is you can actually, it's not about dumbing it down, it's not about making it more succinct, a smaller view of what they got. It's about making it a more exciting, vibrant, interactive experience because you can drive different visuals through the story as well. I totally get that. So yeah, I'm starting to get you. It's the penny's dropping.
The other thing which Mashup helps is it helps to push the intelligence to the end users, right? So for example, if you give me a Qlik dashboard and if you give me a Mashup, I'll prefer to go on the Mashup because it's easier for me, as Kabir and Steve said, that it can be integrated to my portal. So the portal which I'm using on daily basis, I can get the analytics in my portal, so I don't have to go to another screen where I go and look for the data.
So if I'm using like Dynamics or something like that, you can actually embed it into Dynamics or into Sage or into any system like that.
Any system, yeah.
That's what Mashup's giving me. You can embed my Qlik objects in my system.
I've actually worked with projects where we have embedded Qlik into CRM Dynamics as well as a custom built software. So I used to work for an OEM partner where they used to use QlikView. Back before QlikSense came in, we used to have Workbench for QlikView. QlikView Workbench, that's the one. Horrendous to work with at that time. Trust me, QlikSense is such a great product. When we start seeing APIs, my life changed. I don't have to work Workbench.
Yeah, everyone's life changed after the QlikSense,
But back then we were still doing that type of work. We're actually embedding QlikView objects and charts with interactivity to their software directly, so people don't have to move away from what they're using, and they can still consume the data, and that really adds on to the user experience.
You can even put it point of sale and stuff like that, so that you can really tailor it to the type of person that consumes that information. Wow! So
actually, I'll give you another example.
I could be in a bar taking your orders for drinks or food, and at the same time consuming data from Qlik that's reacting to what's happening within the restaurant. So I don't know, heat spots of complaints or noise levels or anything like that. I could be, through my tablet. That's giving me a bit of a...
I'll give you another example. Say, for example, if I'm the sales guy, I'm using a CRM, right?
Yep.
Generally, CRM contains the lead, the opportunities, and that kind of data. But it does not give me any information about the customer billing, right? So being a salesperson, it is important for me that when I'm going to a customer place, I should know the entire history of that customer. What is the amount it is spending, what are the bills pending, or what are the orders which are pending, right? So what we had done for one of our customers is we had integrated the Qlik dashboard in the Salesforce CRM.
Yep.
So, it becomes easy. And when you do this integration, you can even see that on a mobile, right? So a salesperson, whenever they go on the customer side, they can simply go on the Qlik dashboard within the Salesforce, and they can just see the entire 360 degree of that customer. And it becomes easy for them to, do a sales pitch.
You've just flipped my mindset, because my mindset in the past was that I would try and make that one customer view in Qlik, because that's where my world is. I've not got Mashup in my vocabulary. But what you've just said is, no, I'll just supplement the current system. I'll supplement the current system with a power of Qlik.
Yeah. And it's got to be for the right user at the right time and at the right place, and that's generally where they're working day to day. And adding on the CRM side of it with the latest Salesforce platform and the Lightning elements of that, we've done a couple of projects where we've actually almost got their internal Salesforce team using the Qlik APIs and consuming data across that and SAP and pushing it out on all those devices. The technology is there now to embed this very easily into all of those different platforms.
And it's just... Sorry, mate.
No, and we've taken... Again, the other benefit for me on the Mashup side of it is that we've probably, even at some of the smaller customers as well as the big ones, where now, we're using Raspberry Pis connected to TVs, and, on a couple of the TVs, we've now got interactive screens. So they, if they want, if they've got a leaderboard of salespeople in their office, they can go and click on themselves on the TV, see the rest of the dashboard change, and then go back. Obviously, they're trying to get to the top of the dashboard, but there's all interactive TVs allow us to put those mashups on there and combine data from 3 or 4 different applications in a much easier way.
Yeah.
So that's just like a little Raspberry Pi running Apache, serving as a little hosting a web page and intranet, and you've embedded Qlik into that.
Yeah,
Sweet.
and also, and with it, we've got options in there to then rotate the screen. So after 30 seconds, it goes from the sales operations dashboard to the CRM dashboard to the deliveries or customer complaints, whatever it may be. So, you're keeping everybody engaged in the room. And where the mashups can help is that with that being in their offices, they've got customers and suppliers coming around. So the branding becomes more important to be able to get the styling right to support the branding of the client.
Of course. I mean, like I say, the penny's starting to drop more and more now. So I remember that company that I was at previously. The problem that they had is getting people to kind of get on to using data and analytics to drive the business forward. Their traditional user would be, well, why do I need another system? Why do I have to go into another system now as well? And what you're saying is, we don't need to do that. We can just embed Qlik in there, so we just make it look like their systems had an upgrade.
Yeah. So another prime example would be call centers. So we worked on a project a while back, and where as soon as you receive a call, any agent receives a call on the other end. As soon as they pick up the phone, if the number is already in their system, they get a full view of that customer.
Yeah.
How often did they complain? Did they ever complain at all? What was the complaint related to, and who the last person
That's all driven through Qlik. All these
driven through Qlik, because complaints, claims, and the type of product that they hold, all of those information are held in a number of different systems.
Yeah.
And what Qlik was doing is building all the information into one place and presenting just in a small corner of their screen with just number, with some visuals. So straight away they know, okay, he has that many product. This is the number of times he's called. This is the number of times he's made claims on those different products, and this is the type of complaints that we've dealt with him. So he may be related to his complaints. So they straight away are on their feet. Okay, I need to be very careful with this customer because he has already complained. I don't really want him to give you another reason for him to complain. So I need to be a bit more sensitive. They already sort of can preempt what type of conversation this can be.
Upselling, cross-selling, retention, everything's there, man. You've got me right. You've sold me to this point now that I'm happy that there's so many use cases for this, and I can see in small and large deployments, small and large companies. But it still worries me about how we develop this and how specialist knowledge you have to have for this. So, Kabir, you'd actually volunteered to kind of show me now a bit of a demo of how we stick one together. So, put you on the spot, mate.
I don't remember volunteering, but yeah.
Well, I'll just bring up the text.
I will take up one point on there, Age. I wouldn't say you're into specialist skills. I think these days HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and your preferred Angular, React, whatever it may be, are so widely known. Anybody who's put any sort of website together will have some form of skill, and with all the collateral that Qlik provide, you're into hours these days to get stuff up and running.
Really?
Yeah.
So the kids that are coming out of university now, this is bread and butter to them.
Yeah, it's standard stuff. Most of them are covering Python and JavaScript and interactive development platforms as part of junior school, senior school, college, uni. It's
things like the React. That's not specialist. That's normal Java.
It's just a modern version of JavaScript. JavaScript's been around for a long while. It's just an improvement on how easy it is to deploy code, manage it, and keep it in check as things progress.
Nice.
So when you talk about React and Angular and Vue.js, they're slightly different than just learning JavaScript. They are a framework, so they are written in JavaScript, or obviously on AngularJS that's TypeScript, but they are just a framework that allows speedy build of things and managing those content and how you deploy them and how you manage those going forward once you officially build something. It just helps us build better and quicker.
Right.
And that means, yes, when it comes to React, if you just know Java and if you just touch on React, you'll be quite a hard thing to get a hold onto because the concept behind the framework is slightly different. So you have to understand all of that and learn that. So there are some learning some learning curve there. And for out of all the different libraries out there, especially the ones that's been used by most people in the market, you'll find the React probably has a slightly more steep learning curve than others, purely because the framework is quite different than what we know, or what people worked in terms of web front-end development. So it's quite different in that sense. But it is, like you said, like Steve said, JavaScript underneath it, HTML, CSS, the same type of knowledge. And once you know one framework, it's easy to see how the other framework works. And they're all sort of, you can take the skill set and use on another one. It'll probably take about a couple of hours, and then you're up to speed.
Yeah, it's dots and semicolons and hyphens as opposed to the other one.
Let me ask the question a different way then. As somebody that's got a fair few grey hairs now, how long or how hard would it be for me to learn it? I'm not a software engineer, so are we talking 100 hours on a YouTube course, or are we talking I need 3 years at school again?
Let me take that as a challenge.
Cool.
I can guarantee by the time I finish my demo, you will learn how to do your first mashup.
Holy moly! I nearly swore then. Holy moly!
With the Qlik Sense.
Yeah. So you won't need much apart from a little bit of understanding of HTML, and I can show you how you can very quickly embed something onto a web page, and that's something that you can do very quickly. Advanced stuff, yes, it may require time, and it will come over time. But the basic stuff, you can do it very quickly, and it doesn't take much. And Qlik has provided us with a number of different APIs, a number of ways of getting to the same results, so that you just need to find what you're comfortable with, what's aligned with your skill set, and start using that. And as you come up with more challenges, just like we've done with Qlik View, Qlik Sense, as we come up with more requirements and customer wanting a particular chart to appear just in that corner there with overlay with another icon on top of it, and then you have to figure out how to layer it and all those different things. You do the same with these mashup technologies.
Well, go to Google and figure it out.
Exactly, and you a lot more giggling.
Even I will confidently tell you that even Qlik Sense has this Qlik Dev tool, right? Where we have the mashup editor, so you don't have to know anything. I mean, you just need to know that which chart has to be where, and using that mashup editor, probably you can easily design that. You don't have to worry about even HTML. You don't have to worry about the HTML, right? You get a link of your mashup and just embed into your portal. That's it.
Okay, so I'm going to take you up on that challenge of trying to teach you how to build your first mashup.
Nice one.
With very little coding and probably with very little time, provided I can type. My typing is horrendous, so I don't know how I actually ended up in this profession.
Especially when you got 3 people watching you, it gets a lot harder, doesn't
it? So let's start with a blank project folder. So I've called it Qlik Sense Mashup Demo, and what I'm going to do is just create just a new HTML file. So let's call that demo.html. There you go. I told you about my skill of typing.
Yeah, let's talk about skill. I didn't even realise that's how easily you could create a HTML file. I always used software to start my project, and that created my HTML file. I never even knew you could just put a text. Man, I knew you could do that with Python.
It's just an extension. At the moment, it's just a blank. So if you do open this file in a browser,
open in a web browser.
See anything. It's just blank file. There's nothing in it. So idea is to edit this file, add some more code, and at the end of it, we just want to show some Qlik Sense dashboard, or maybe some charts or something from Qlik Sense into it. For me, I use Visual Studio Code. It's probably one of the really good IDE out there for people to use. You have a number of different extensions they can download, and that would automate and make your life a lot more easier, and also give you lots of little snippets.
That's a free piece of kit as well, isn't it?
It certainly is, and it's cross-platform. So if you use Apple Mac, if you use Linux, or if you use Windows, it doesn't matter. It will work on those. And I use it actually across all three different platforms as well. And another beauty is there's another extension that can actually sync all of your settings between different devices. So that way, whatever you make changes to one, it will be on your Linux machine, it will be on your Apple machine.
Sweet.
That's great.
So I'm just going to quickly learn this. Let's get rid of that. So that's my demo. It's a blank page. There's nothing else in it. And like I said, it's so easy to do. I even have an extension that gives me boiler templates. A boiler template is basically just a template with the very little coding, the structure that you need for an HTML document. So if I choose this one, it would give me an HTML document. So it's giving me the structure for the document. You've got the header tag, you've got your body tag, and anything in the body tag that I type in, you'll be able to see in your HTML. So if I put some header on there, so if I put H1 and if say hi demo, that would be better.
And that's just an extension that you've installed within Visual Studio Code?
Just a small extension just to automate writing this, because if you're writing the HTML file all the time, it makes your life more easier by just having the snippets there and just choose any properly stuff for you. I mean, there's lots of things in there that you probably won't need. So for example, these things you don't really need. Again, you probably don't need that. You probably don't need anything to do with that. So let's take that one out.
Does anybody else do this as well? Within Qlik, I have a Word document still that I've got like a bank of all the code that I copy and paste in. No, just me.
I'd using that Git to Qlik. I don't know if anybody's trialing the Git to Qlik.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be, or I was hoping to trial it, but I've never had the time. So
been brilliant over the last couple of weeks. It'll version track and upload all of your script and your object metadata into GitHub.
No
and
way.
You can reuse it. Yeah, so I definitely recommend having a look at that.
I've standard things that I have in a Word document, and then obviously I have a load of apps that I remember, I managed to solve that problem in that app, I'll go and copy it out of there.
Yeah, so this would allow you to comment that and create snippets that you can then, whilst you're in the Qlik app, it will actually check it in and check it out and allow you to duplicate the app onto a new platform. So
you have to send us a link. You have to send us a link for that, and I'll post it when we post this video, mate. That sounds really cool. It's like having a little blotter in it then.
It is, yeah. Yeah, it's in beta trial. There's probably a couple hundred people trialing at the minute, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and he did say that anybody that's trialing now, he's more than likely to give them some sort of a discount when it comes to buying the license. So, so in a way, you're helping him to build a product that he can patronize and sell it to enterprise.
So you just put a little bit of code on a inner header in the body of the web page. Yep, got you.
Yeah. So what I've done is I've just given it a title.
Yeah.
And I've just created another tag in called H1, and I've given some context to display on there. So if I save this part of the code and just launch my demo,
that's just a bit of basic HTML. You've not done any CSS or anything. You've just created an HTML page called demo. Yeah, got you.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm still with you. I'm still with you. I'm happy still. Can we finish there? Because that's as hard as I want to go. No.
Easily play. Yeah.
So now the next part is how do we embed Qlik Sense objects into it?
Yeah.
It's as simple as having a Qlik Sense app. So say for example I want to display that on my web page. I already have an existing web page, somebody built it or I built it, and it has all the code. It also even has a frame where I can just put that in or designate a space where I want to add that section in. All I do in here is go share.
Sorry, just to ask you that, how did you format the background on that page? Is that an extension?
No, that's not an extension. That's just a theme. Good job you asked. It's on my last blog post.
Again, would you do me a big favour? Would you send me that blog post link, and I'll put it along with this video, because I know it's silly, but that little thing there makes quite a big difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll share that.
Thank you, mate.
So back to the topic of embedding. So if you right click, you choose share and choose the embed option. and you get a number of different options that you can pick. What would you like the end object to look like? Would you like people to be able to interact with it? Would you like them to right click and export data out of it? Would you like them to be able to make selections? Also, would you like them to see a selection bar at the top when they're making selection to it? For me, as a thumb of good practice, if you don't have a selection shown anywhere in the page, and if you're only adding one chart to it, always add some way of showing the selection, so that way they can clear that selection. Otherwise, they'll make a selection and they don't know how to go back to it.
Cool.
What Qlik does is also gives you this code. You can just take that code. You haven't typed a single line of code at this point. You haven't done anything. You've just right-clicked and just copied something from QlikSense. We go back into our HTML file, and we just, let's save that. Back to our browser.
If you show me that in there now, that's like pulling a rabbit out of a hat.
And there it is. It's obviously not looking very good, but it's there. I probably need to, that's probably because I haven't defined some of the...
probably you need to define the height and width.
So I didn't really define the height and width. So I can manually say height equals, let's adjust that.
So we've got the object in, we're just playing around with format now, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, essence, yeah.
So we are given a height and width of 400 pixels. And knowing how my demo goes, it's probably not going to work.
Hey.
There you go.
It works.
So now you have a QlikSense object that you can interact with. You can make selections. You can clear selections. You can make additional selections on there, and it's fully functional dashboard, fully functional object for you to play around.
Yeah.
So what? Right now then, because that's just blown my mind how simple that was. Could I bring several objects from lots of different dashboards across now? So if I want to do my tailored view that takes 10 objects from 10 different dashboards, can I bring them all onto this one web page?
You certainly can. So let me try another one. So we've got another table in here. I'm going to do the same with that table.
All the embedding variables, and then you've copied that to embed into your web page. Put that within the body of your web page itself. And fair enough, we've not done anything with the format in terms of where it sits within the page and all that type of thing, but.
Exactly. We're just going to show us somewhere. It's probably not going to look very pretty, and it's not going to look all tidy because we're not using any style sheet. We haven't embedded anything else to it. We're just showing how quickly we could do this.
Yeah.
And just and I suppose referring back to the Dev Hub again, they have 3 or 4 standard HTML templates that you with placeholders in, where you can then almost copy and paste that code out and put that into here. So you've got a little drag and drop exercise to do.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple of customers even making the automated mashup builder, right, where you can just choose the app, you can choose the object, and you can simply place wherever you want.
That's the one that's built into the Dev Hub.
Yeah, I mean Dev Hub is the one thing, but I don't know. There is one project on the developer.qlik.com.
Yeah.
Where it helps you to create the mashup, automated building mashup. So you don't have to worry about writing any code.
But that's a great option to then be able to show the interactivity as well. So even though you've maybe taken objects from different sheets, applying a filter on one will, it gets the point over people who need to be able to prove what they can do there.
So that's just a quick way of building, and like I said, I can show you how it's done within minutes, and I hope
you sold me on that. That's just.
And again, that's fully interactable. So
why have I never known this? Why have I never known this?
So
The ability now to
That's just
tailor
yeah,
that view.
That's just one end of it. Imagine the possibility with this. For example, presentation. So this is an example of what you could do with embedded chats. So I've embedded that into my presentation. Now I can actually interact with it. I can show you how that works. And another clever thing Qlik is doing background is sharing the selection. So these two charts coming from my same application. As soon as I make a selection on this one, it's making selection on the same selection to the other chart. Yeah. So you can see how the seated model is working. Imagine being able to present and also interact during your presentation. That's quite powerful. It's a very powerful tool, a very powerful way of storytelling, and also getting a message across to your end user. And I tend to use that quite often.
Just show me how you've done that within a presentation then. Whereabouts is that line? You've put that in a PowerPoint presentation?
So this is not in a PowerPoint presentation. This is another presentation software that I use called Slides. It's a free software to use for anybody online. Right. They do have a developer edition that you can download and use. It's an open source thing. You can download and run it from your machine, or you can use a slide where you can build your tool.
Because obviously we've got the storyboard within Qlik, but a lot of people still go back to PowerPoint because that's what all the presentations have been on. Can we just embed these straight into PowerPoint?
You certainly can. You can embed HTML objects and other things to PowerPoint, and you can do the same behavior in PowerPoint.
Just as when you're putting the object in, and it's the type of object, and it's an HTML object, and you're embedding it. Cool. Thanks, man.
That's it.
Sorry to interrupt, but thank you.
No, that's fine. And this is another way of using it. And like I said, the code is required for this sort of thing to work is very, very simple. So on this particular one, all I've done is just I've added the iframe, which contains the source contains the where my Qlik environment is. What's the URL for it? Then you pass on the application ID.
Yep.
Which object you want to show, and what are the options you want to show the object with. So I want to show with the carousel and some right-click options, so they can see a context menu and they right-click on it, and also some styling, so width and height, that sort of thing. And that's all you need to run it. You can add on further option to it. For example, you can apply certain theme when you are displaying the object. So your app, when you designed it, might not have any theme, and it just is Qlik Classic. Yep. But when you are displaying on a Mashup, you want to on the fly change it to a different theme that you already have installed on your Qlik. For example, you want to change it from normal mode to a dark mode because your whole website is in that dark mode or that sort of background. So you can change that on the fly using the theme. You can also make other options being is we can make the chart non-interactable, so you can't interact with it at all, or you can just make any non-selectable, so they can't make any selections to it. A bit like a static object, they can hover over, see all these different tooltips, but not being able to make any selections with it. So this is the particular one where I've applied the theme, and you can see the theme is working. I can make selections, and it's working on both ends. The next one you could do with the Mashup, and I think this is quite powerful as well, is how we one of the biggest thing about Qlik that I've always found is a comparative analysis. A lot of other BI tools that I've worked with, you'll find that you can't really do that side-by-side comparison. With Qlik View and with Qlik Sense, it is really, really powerful how we can create alternate states and do this comparative analysis. With Mashup, it actually makes it so much easier. You don't even have to have a comparative state, you don't have to have an alternate state. You can actually do that on the fly using something called session. So when I'm calling my iframe or objecting, I can pass in an ID, and as long as the ID is the same as the other objects in the space that I'm displaying, they will share the selection, others will not. So I'm showing two charts from the same application. One I'm making selection on, but that one's not responding to it at all. So I can make those two selections.
And they could be the same object, I guess.
And they could be the same object. It could be the same object I'm showing in side by side. One I can interact with, one I can just I mean, I can interact with both of them, but the selection is not going to change the other one. It's basically just creating on-the-fly alternate state without having to creating measures for catering for your alternate states. You can just use your standard app out of the box and create something and create side-by-side comparison for your users.
So how did you achieve that? Because that is very powerful.
There it is.
No way.
So only thing that I've added on, one says identity first, one says identity second. So if I had another chart with identity first, they would have shared the same selection.
Same selections.
If I had another one with identity second, they would have shared the selections that I've made on this one.
Cool.
And that's as simple as that.
That is cool.
So that really, I think this is quite powerful. It does add on to, and you don't really need to have any JavaScript. So at this point, I've not used any JavaScript. Yep. You don't need to have any JavaScript knowledge to be able to build that type of visualization on the fly for people. And there's lots of other quirks too when you start working with Mashup. You'll find lots of other different ways of doing things that expands from the power of Qlik. I mean, end of the day, the Qlik Geex client that we use is essentially just another HTML view that Qlik created for us, and they had to they're now exposing all the different features of it purely because they needed to make something that works for a large portion of it, everybody. Yeah. Where if you want to get to the bottom of it and get the full power of Qlik, you can start using Engine API. You can use on the fly add-in. So we're all familiar with partial load, but we don't see that on Qlik Geex purely because they didn't build that within the user interface that we use. But it's still there, and if you know how to use Engine API, you can actually add data on the fly for each user and make a really nice collaborative approach. So there are a number of tricks that you can use, and Mashup really does open up that space for you and opportunity for you. So that's it really. Another quick demo that I can show you in terms of how Mashup can help you build a guided analytics or maybe simplify things for the end user at times. So most end user will be familiar with something like this, nice, clean website. We all know the menus are usually at the top. Everybody's sort of used to that type of menu option. And also seeing their content in the middle of the screen. They don't need to worry about selection bars. They don't need to worry about all these other different navigation buttons that Qlik Geex client would present. So it's a simpler approach by showing the dashboard to them. So if they want to see, for example, I want to look at dashboard A. I click on it. It shows me the dashboard is hiding again all these different other elements that every chart will bring in. It will just show you what they need to see. They can interact with it. So I'm making some selections and it will show me what I've selected. It becomes quite intuitive at that point. But also you may have an use case where you want to present number of charts, but one of them you don't really want people to make selections because it breaks, or maybe it has other things that when they start selecting, it will expose a field that you don't want them to see. So you could do that on Mashup. So for example, I've got 2 objects in here. I can select on this one, but I can't actually select anything on here.
Yeah.
I can hover over, I can see all of those different things, but I can't really make any selections. So it's sort of telling me a little bit of the sub-story, perhaps, of
and do you have the ability to export from here? Can I export this straight to Excel?
You certainly can, but on this particular one, I've not implemented it.
Right.
I didn't have enough time, because like I said, I done it this morning, and I didn't actually think about the export option. But you could.
And that's just when you selected the options, when you got the embedded code, that was part of those options, was it?
No, this is slightly more advanced. So this is not. I'm using JavaScript libraries and other things on there. So this is more to do with the JavaScript rather than. So I'm using capability API at this point. I'm moving away from app and single API. So there's no iframe or anything on this.
It's a full difference from going and using standard out-of-the-box functionality and saying you almost have to work on the basis that unless you tell me you want it, it's not there. It's more of a, but don't export to Excel unless you've asked me for that.
Yeah.
It needs to be coded for.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
As another thing that you will find with the Mashup is you don't have to have a chart in your original application in order to display that in Mashup. So you may be that you're working in a Mashup and customer says, "Oh, I would like a bar chart." So going back to the example that you mentioned earlier on, is when users start to drill down and change their object, and that's a really good use case for Mashup. Is you can do all of those different things as soon as users start interacting with the chart. You can change them into different chart type, or you can do lots of different things with that data. Other thing that I was touching on before is you don't have to have them on your dashboard. Is primary example is the list or
like
menu.
That. Yeah.
So a lot of the time people don't really get how we set up the filters within the Qlik Geex dashboards.
Yeah.
And they want to feel like how they navigate on their other products they have, perhaps, or how they navigate within websites and that sort of thing, and they want that type of look and feel.
It's those nice little touches, though, isn't it? Because VisLib do this. VisLib have got this as part of one of their extensions, and I love it. It just saves you that space as well on your screen.
Yeah.
Real estate, you know.
Exactly. Every pixel counts when it comes to building dashboard, because we work in such a small space, so we need to make sure that we represent data and utilize the space.
It looks cool as well for the users. It looks cool. It looks modern.
Yeah. So in my example in here, this doesn't exist in my environment. It's not even an extension. It's something that I've just coded in there. I've created a list object where I can just click and bring in details, and I can make selections, and it would work just like I would expect to. But it allows me to actually show how many filters that I've applied for each of those, so I can see what's happening. Even though I'm showing them in here, but at the same time, when I actually look at the menu, I know I have two selections in here. I've got one filter in here.
So Kabir, you've gone a whole different level now, yeah? Because you've gone to this point now where I would need to learn something and take time to learn it in order to create something like that object. So you've coded that now, yeah? So I understand where we are.
So I'm showing the possibility.
Yeah.
So we start from the very basics, and this is what sort of we can end up with. I mean, this is not even a very good one. You can end up with really, really good ones once you learn how to use those API and how to interact with it.
I think one of the things that, I mean, we came across, I don't know if anybody else has used it, but the Qlik demo team have put together a set of components on GitHub. So they've actually built a little framework that takes out a lot of the pain of making some of those easy visualizations.
That's right, yeah. It's QDT library that we tend to use. It's just absolutely fantastic. And I think going forward, that's where the Mashup's going to end up with, because the Nebula.js and how that's going.
We've done a lot of mashups on that, and it's, it gets you 50 to 80% of the way there without a vast amount of effort, really. It hats off to them. It's maintained, it's on the GitHub, and it's available for anybody to download and start to use. So it's.
So what's that, Steve? There's a load of code on there.
There is, sample code and objects, and even a demo site as well. So the Qlik demo team. So if you search for Qlik demo team on GitHub, you'll find their QDT components, and you can download that actually from a lot of the frameworks. You can just, you can bring it straight into your coding environment, and you'll have some stuff to work with, sample code that will work with building any of the main features, filtering, sorting. A lot of the APIs, the capability, the engine, visualization one have all got sample code in there for you to be able to use.
Nice one.
I think the easiest way to look at it is, say, for example, you want to interact with a chart and you want to be able to just bring in the information from it, just bring in the raw data from Qlik Geex and interpreting all of it. It can take quite a few lines of code, where with the QDT component, it may be just a couple of lines of code. Because they've already done the work for your background. All you have to do is just call this particular function and pass on the details.
The parameters.
And some parameters, and that's it. It will give you the result that you were looking for, and then you do whatever you need to do with that result. So it sort of minimize the number of lines of code that you need to type, and also makes your life a bit more easier. And when they make changes to those APIs, presumably they would keep on supporting that library and they would keep up to date. That means you don't have to change on yours, and they will change on theirs. But it's just a dependency. A lot of people don't prefer to
Yeah,
to depend on this.
It's a trade-off between speed and ongoing overhead and maintenance and various other things. So it's
that's similar to them when we're using classes in like Python and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and on this particular example, it's not just showing a dashboard and charts from my dashboard. I can also show my website. So this is my perfectly good website with stuff in there. And also I wanted to show some YouTube videos, and maybe I want to show some charts at the bottom of it for my dashboard. It could be the stats of the YouTube video, how often people watched it, and I'm just showing them in here. So it could be a number of different things.
Yeah.
That's one way of embedding that information. Or it could be I want to add on a bit more complex stuff. So I have an object with an object embedded to it. I also have my KPI showing with some theme applied to them. And lastly, maybe I want to, and I've just done that thing, I want to show items from 2 different dashboards. So imagine working with 7 or 8 different dashboards, and in the morning, if you have to open all those 7 dashboards to consume just 1 or 2 bits of information from there, it could be quite time consuming and it's not productive enough. So what you could do is you can just build a small mashup where they can just add those charts into one page for them, so they have everything in one view for them.
That's where this now has just changed my life type thing in that exact way, because me being a lot more junior a developer and a lot earlier in this journey, I get to the point in a project where I have the critical mass where you've done enough dashboards now that the directors are really bought in and they want this information, and drawing that high level dashboard of all the other dashboards causes me more work than needs, because I can just do it very simply in here. I can just grab the objects from the component dashboards, whack it in here, job's done.
Exactly. Another example of how dashboard gets used, or how Mashup gets used. So I don't know whether you guys been following this or not. There's a new blog that's been launched called Data on the Rocks. I'm part of it, but there's quite a lot of big key name from the Qlik community are contributing to that one and part of that team. So I just wanted to show you how they've done this. So one of the key things that differentiates them is the number of people that's blogging on there. They're quite big names, and they're always talking about data and lots of other different topics around data, not just Qlik. And obviously they're carrying the flag for Qlik as well, and they're blogging in there. Yeah. On top of that, they're utilizing Qlik Sense to drive all the visualization. So they're not talking about a topic and just giving you some screenshot or just sharing their concept. They're also showing how it works in Qlik, giving you a full example. So this particular one is actually a Qlik Sense object they can interact with. If you scroll down, you can interact with that chart just like we would do. Yeah. So that's another, like I was saying, that this is another way of differentiating yourself amongst all of those different blogs and people that are writing blogs. And this is a nice way to differentiate yourself. One example of a blog, and I think that was quite so outliers. Now this one was really nice and useful blog for me to focus on, because this is a topic that I'm really close to, and I was working on similar sort of concept, and she explained it so well that I actually started to implement that for a project that I'm working on right now. The good thing is I can interact with that data. As I was reading that blog, I can actually interact on how it works, and I can make those selections, and I can see how that would work for me in a real life example. And it's a powerful way of passing that message on to end user and your target audience. There will be lots of other different use cases. So for example, say if you're working for a sales company and just showing them a dashboard, but also adding context to it. And I mean, we talk about data literacy and adding context and telling stories a lot. And this is one way of doing this. It really becomes a really powerful tool to tell a story and also empower the user to actually play with their data as they're learning about it and as they're reading the context around that data subject.
Yeah, it's a nice place to play.
This almost kills my purpose of having the YouTube channel, So one of the purpose I had, because when you read the blog, I mean, you tend to forget, right? You don't know how to actually implement that. So that was the primary reason why I had the YouTube channel. But I mean, after looking at this blog post, I mean, I think I should stop creating the
You
videos.
shouldn't. You should carry on.
Not at all, mate. Not at all. So, right, just coming back on point then. So, yeah, I was at the beginning of this conversation. I was completely. What is the point in just spending loads more money and having loads of specialist developers put a mashup together? And then you've gone from the point of explaining to me why mashups are valuable. You know, so talking about being able to embed them in a company system or to guide the user better or to make it look better. Totally get that. And you then really convinced me as well that you don't need a massive amount of specialist knowledge until you start getting, like anything else, until you start getting to the higher level needs. And then taking me through a demo, I mean, that's brilliant. I think anybody that watches this as well will be encouraged by the fact that just have a go. Because I know I want to go and have a go. I want to go. There's stuff that I've done for clients out there that I think that, you know, there's that user out there that kind of, they're a bit confused by going on to the Qlik side of the app. If I can just refine it down for them, I might get them adopted into the bigger picture as well. So that's been a massive help, mate. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. And like I said, I'm not a developer as such. I've not really had the massive amount of background on building web application. I've only picked up Qlik since a couple of years ago, and been able to get from that point onto building mashups and things like that now. It didn't really take much because all those APIs are easy to understand. All the information's out there in the public domain, and there's so much help, especially on the Slack. To people who are building it, they're in Slack channels. As soon as you ask a question, within about an hour, you'll get a response from them.
Wow.
They will tell you where you can do it there, how to do it. They will share some examples on how to achieve certain things and how to get to it. If there's any changes been made that's not been documented well, all you have to do is just ask the questions, and it will get your answer. And that's how I've learned most of my things, that are just by encouraging for me to go and explore and also ask questions and find out from people who actually been using it for a while.
Yeah.
So lots of help. Community is big on helping each other, and is really great way of learning as well.
And that's a good part about Qlik. You know, I really like it. I mean, Qlik community is really great, and there is always person to, you know, ready to help you. So that's really good about Qlik.
To be fair, mate, that's when we bought Qlik. That's why we didn't go Tableau and Power BI at the time, because the community has been around for such a long time. With ClickView being there as the pedigree package, that the community was massive, and you know, being like I say, only a few years into it myself, and now starting to get involved with the likes of you guys. Everybody's just willing just to share knowledge. I mean, Kabir, there you've just shown us how to do a mashup. You know, I mean, you're not sort of, oh, I've got to keep that noise close to my chest because, you know, that's my IP or whatever. It's just everybody's like that. It's great. It's a great community.
Yeah.